Did that crash and burn, or was that?
I wouldn't say it was terrible. How about gracefully separating? Because you and Brooke actually had a good exit.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about exiting collaborations because I gave myself an example, but tell me a little bit of your example with this gal that kind of made an event fall through. But did that crash and burn, or was that pretty easy?
I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it definitely got to the point where we don't really communicate anymore. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we have any animosity towards each other,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just that level of trust is completely gone, you know?
Right. Right. Hmm.
So, and same with the other gentleman, he was just gone.
Ghosted.
I had someone else I was working with that we did a really good job, and then he just kind of flaked off because life got in the way. And it's
Yeah.
like it's crazy to me how someone can get so close to that one thing that they want that we've discussed and we've sat down, and it's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do, and it's gonna be awesome,
Mm.
and we both agree to it, and then they're just like,
Phew.
yeah, and
Bye.
it's just this. It's so interesting to me.
They're like a plastic bag floating through wind or whatever it calls that one.
Plastic bag, plastic bag.
That one.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I'm currently reading a book, and I think this has relevance to kind of what your point was, or the undertone of the point, which is people get to a certain level and they're
Hmm.
hitting some sort of upper limit problem,
Hmm.
and then they sabotage it.
Hmm.
We all do it. There's a book I'm
Absolutely.
reading right now called The Big Leap, and he talks about that. And that's the whole point of the book, really. It's the
Hmm.
big leap is learning about your upper limit problems, how you self-sabotage, and how you can move through those so that you can keep moving forward to the big leaps, rather than tiptoeing and moving. As I say, you're not going over it, you're not going around it, you're not going under it, you're not running away from it. You got to go through it, right?
Hmm.
So it's a really good book that talks about that. And I'm kind of seeing maybe that we and everyone should have a conversation of what are your upper limit problems? What are your base fears? Do you find more stress about money, or do you find more stress with customer service? Kind of really understanding that and having those hard conversations, of course, up front.
Hmm.
Because you could talk about strategies, you could talk about marketing, et cetera, even draft up who does what, sweat equity, you name it. But when you start hitting those fears and weird communication issues, it gets hard to have communication because party number one probably doesn't know that's what they're experiencing, and party
Hmm.
number two doesn't know what they're experiencing. So how do you address it, right?
Right.
So I think, setting a foundation of understanding these are your limits, these are your problems. So when these things start to arise, we can openly talk about them,
Mhm.
right? So that's a really cool thought. I think I'm going to start doing that
Well,
myself.
one thing that I've done a lot, and we actually did it, is that PTSI.
Yeah.
So taking that PTSI test, which is we've talked about in probably episode like 3 or 2 or
Well, for our
something.
new listeners, what is that called? What is it really?
So that's the post-traumatic stress index. So it
Mm-hmm.
teaches. Uh, so it's a trauma test to see how we respond to trauma or
Mm-hmm.
stress. So, because again, when you're getting towards that level of like, okay, I'm starting to go into new territory. I haven't been here, whether it's because we're making more money or just
Mm-hmm.
being having more responsibility. It's stressful. Um,
Right.
and so, how we respond, whether it's blocking, just repeating that I'm not good enough, I can't do this, uh, and then being able to have that vocabulary of like, hey, I think you're going through this right now. Let's talk about it. And
Mm-hmm.
then talking about it as functional adults instead of the wounded child or rebellious
Yeah.
adolescent, I think is
But I think
key.
on top of that, having that is a really good tool. By the way, we should just get them as sponsors. We talk about it all the freaking time.
Oh, yeah.
But doing that test and being able to share those information with each other is good. But I
Mhm.
also think really highlighting which areas of life stress you out the most. right? Like
Yeah.
the money, the
Mm.
relationships, the, just the business operations, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And just having that priority listed out.
Mhm.
And if your collaborator or ease
Mhm.
have no idea what those priorities are or refuse to do that test, that's a huge flag.
I would agree with that completely. Because again, I have another colleague who I just learned has no ability to understand, like she has no interest in understanding what her stressors are and how it's been sabotaging her life for a very long time.
Yeah, she wants to run away from it,
Yeah.
She doesn't want to address those things. And that shows how they're probably going to operate in their business too.
Yeah, and it taught me I cannot trust them to do anything,
Right.
So,
it's like we can get a beer, nothing more.
Literally, yeah. It's like I like you as a person, but I just can't trust you to do any part of any kind of agreement,
And I think also expressing when you're getting stressed or other priorities come in is key too, because we've talked about that before, just you and I, where it's like life was really getting in the way. And so I was like, hey, I can't come to the office as often as I know you want, and even myself, to do these recordings, because it's literally an hour in that day where I'm on the road. And then we're looking at like a half-hour setup, and it's just like, it's not working. I have to be doing it at home.
Yeah.
So that's why we started doing Zoom calls, right? Even in the eBay store, I'm collaborating with my friend. She does all the bookkeeping and administration side, and I do all of the pictures, postings, and fulfillment. And so I haven't posted anything in a month, I think. And and I was feeling really crappy about it. And so I decided today, actually, to tell her, hey, I have not been showing up, and I realize that I apologize. Thank you for your patience. I was trying to say thank you for your patience or whatever, because an apology doesn't really mean much, but it is just saying, hey, I know I'm at fault. Thank you for your patience with me. I will be doing better here shortly, right? And get that moving for her, because I gave her a commitment, and I need to honor that commitment. And so I think honoring commitments is really key. But obviously, there comes a point where you go, I cannot hold this commitment anymore, so we need to phase this out or reevaluate.
Yeah, and it's a very adult thing to do, to have that conversation.
Adulting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to point that out, because that's something I've really come to realize over the years, that apologies actually are the absolute worst thing in the world. So telling someone I'm sorry is actually a really selfish thing, because you're asking for their forgiveness without showing that you even understand what happened. So it's like, I need to feel better. I'm sorry. I need to feel better because I did something wrong. Instead of saying, hey, I want to own up to this thing that I didn't do. I want to explain that I understand how you feel and how it impacted your life. And here are the action steps I'm going to do to fix it.
Right.
Instead of saying, I'm sorry, forgive me, it's more of an, I'm sorry, here's what I'm going to do to remedy the situation. Right. I think those are two very different things.
Yeah, I don't say I'm sorry or apologize very often. I do know if I have been slacking off, and they definitely notice it. I'll be like, I do apologize. I have been doing that. But I think it's even more impactful to say, I appreciate your patience, or I appreciate your understanding. I will do better.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And if I don't do better, you are welcome to call me out on it.
Right.
And just saying that, because it's acknowledging you're at fault. It's definitely appreciating that they are being kind about it. And again, that you're going to do better, or we need to reevaluate this contract so that I can show up in the space that you expect.
Yeah.
Right?
And actually, something that I don't know if I've talked about it before in a previous episode, but one of the number one things, if you do still have a W-2 job and a boss, one of the best ways to get ahead in a company is to go to your manager before they come to you and say, hey, I way messed this thing up.
Right?
Be like, hey,
So,
that mistake, that was my fault. And say it in front of everyone
yeah.
so that everyone knows, like, hey, I'm taking ownership of this problem and here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Every time I do that, I see everyone, they get this like puzzled look of like, wait, he's admitting, he understands, like, huh, that's different. Because everyone else tries to hide it, or they'll blame someone else, or they're like, well, it wasn't,
I don't have
it wasn't
enough
that
time.
bad. I just have, so much. I mean, Jim was supposed to get me this email and I never got the email, so I couldn't get my thing done. It's like, no, I just, man, I thought I prioritized wrong. It was my fault. You are going to get a really scathing email from this customer.
I've done that
because
before.
I dropped that
Call the
ball.
boss and be like, so you're probably going to get a phone call. I've done that a lot of times.
And then they get that phone call. They're like, oh, yes, I've already talked to my employee about this. So instead of being like, wait, what?
I've even copied an email with a customer that was just like, I'm so going to be talking to your supervisor or whatever. And so I copied them on the email and like, hey, this is such and such. She was definitely not happy with my performance. I will work on doing better. Please hear her out. And, we can have our own conversation on the side.
That was
and
my
that
fault.
Customer never called.
And
they were like, going to call. Like, this is a Karen it's like, totally. And but the fact that I, stated to the boss and copied her on it, she didn't call.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
She was
and
like, okay. Yeah, you did me wrong or whatever. It was not that way, but whatever. Yeah.
Cool.
That's funny. But I think that's key also in collaborations, right? When you screw up, like to our, I'm going to say it to our audience. In the beginning, David was just so sorry that I partnered with him because he's like, I screwed this up. I didn't do this. I feel so bad. Why are you partnering with me? You were like that. You were whiny. Insecure, I guess I should say. But insecure, but that's a lot less than it used to be. Now I'm doing it more where I'm just like, I didn't do that, so I will.
And see, we have empathy for each other because we understand that both of us understand. It's cool.
We all don't know what the fuck we're doing. Just own it. Really. Just
own it, be okay with it, and then but keep going. That's the key.
Show up, even if you don't know how.
Or discuss why you don't think you should show up anymore. You don't have to. If you're like, man, I keep screwing this up. I don't think I can do this. It's impacting my life, my family, taking way more time than I thought. Talk about it with your partner, Don't just keep slacking off until they build up resentment. And then, because I think that is the key. If it's not talked about, resentment builds and then it ruins relationships forever.
Yeah, that is true. Again, a lot of similarities with the dating world.
Yeah, exactly.
Weird. Okay. Well, thank you for listening to the I Don't Know What the Fuck I'm Doing podcast. This is Anastasia.
And David B.
Yeah. We'll see you on our next episode. Be sure to check out the links, the descriptions below. There's some goodies in there for you. Check out our Patreon page because we slide in a lot of really cool peeps and behind the scenes stuff, especially secret interviews with our guests that you don't get on the main channel. So go check those out. We'd love to see you there.
And whoever you are my favorite person.
Ta-da! Thank you for listening to another episode of I Don't Know What the Fuck I'm Doing podcast.
We can't do this without you, and to reward you for your support, we would like to invite you to something unique.
Go to beacons.ai/IDK WTF POD to schedule a complimentary 15-minute phone call with one of us.
You can also find the link in the description.
We're here to brainstorm with you on different solutions for your business or life.
We want to hear your feedback about our podcast or even just schedule some time to say hi.
Not only that, but anyone who chats with us will get a voucher for $100 in restaurant coupons.
Schedule some time today, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.